everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leanne and today I'm going to be wrapping up all of the books that I read in July, except for the books that I read during the booktube-a-thon. The books that I read for the booktube-a-thon have their own separate wrap-up, so I will leave that linked. But for the sake of being thorough, the books that I read for the booktube-a-thon were The Girl of Ink and Stars by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, The Green Road by Anne Enright, Kink and Particle by Tiffany Atkinson, Persuasion by Jane Austen. When I filmed my wrap-up for the booktube-a-thon, I hadn't quite finished this one, but my thoughts are pretty much the same as they were in that video. I also read The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, Paper Butterflies by Lisa Heathfield, and Adulthood is a Myth by Sarah Anderson. To kick it off with the poetry, the first poetry collection I read in the month was Daljit Nagra's Look We Have Coming to Dover. This explores the idealism and reality of multicultural Britain. The author's parents came to England in the 1950s from Punjab, and this collection chronicles everything from a stowaway's first step onto a Dover beach to the disenchantment of subsequent generations. The hybrid language, dialect, and vernacular in these poems tell the stories of aspiration, assimilation, alienation, and love. I was pretty certain going into this collection that I would really enjoy the dialect aspect of it, but I was also really struck by the use of form in this collection. A couple of these standout poems for me were the title poem, but also the furtherance of Mr. Bulrum's education. I thought that was a really fantastic poem. Yeah, I thought this was a really valuable collection and I would highly recommend it. This is published by Faber and Faber, by the way, if you couldn't already tell. Next poetry collection I read was Sight Feminist by Megan Beach, and this is published by Burning Eye Books. I knew going into this book that I was going to love it, and I was right. I absolutely loved Meg's first collection, When I Grow Up I Want to Be Mary Beard, and Meg very kindly sent me an advanced PDF of Sight Feminist. This one comes out on the 18th of August. If you are fans of slam poetry, or Kate Tempest, or Holly McNish, then I would highly recommend this collection. If you've read Meg's first collection, there are a lot of themes in here that would be recognisable and familiar to you. Of course, we have feminism and empowerment. It's a political collection and deals with what it's like to be under a Tory government or a Conservative government in 21st century Britain. Particularly what it means to be a young person, but also a young woman under that government. But in this collection, Meg is also dealing with issues of mental health. How do you feel empowered when your depression is leaving you powerless and making it difficult for you to get out of bed in the morning? There are references to Sylvia Plath in this collection, which is something I really related to and empathised with, and I think a lot of young women who read this collection will empathise with those aspects of some of the poems. And there's also one poem which features Britney Spears, which I'm particularly really fond of. I'll leave a link to some of Meg's poetry down below so you can go check it out. So there are 3 more novels that I read in the month of July. The first of those I'm going to talk about is Exit West by Mohsin Hamid, which was published by Hamish Hamilton. This has just been longlisted for the Man Booker Prize. I read The Reluctant Fundamentalist in my first year of university and I absolutely loved it. I didn't quite love this one as much, but I still think it was a really fantastic book. This is both a magical realism story and a refugee story, and I think it's actually really interesting to compare the American book cover and the UK book cover for this novel, because it seems that the American one is really emphasising the magical realism side of it, but the UK one is really lending itself more to the refugee story. And I wonder what could have been done to sort of encapsulate them both. But either way, the content of this book is really fantastic. This is about a young couple who meet in a country that is teetering on the edge of a civil war. When the unrest of the city explodes, they begin to hear news of doorways, and they emerge into an alien and uncertain future. This is a story of love, loyalty, and courage, and I really appreciated seeing a love story that wasn't particularly fluffy or idealised. These felt like real people experiencing real emotions in an incredibly turbulent time. How does a relationship function under those extreme pressures? I thought this was a really great book and I'm really glad that it's on the long list. The next book I read was The Doll Funeral by Kate Hamer, and I had very mixed feelings on this one, which was published by Faber and Faber. So this is about a young girl named Ruby who lives with 2 people who are not her real parents. This is also a very abusive situation for Ruby to be in. And this book deals with her trying to get away from that, trying to work out who she really is. In this book we also have incredibly lyrical language, a lot of magical and fantastical elements, and I don't think that worked. I thought the mystical elements of this book distracted from Ruby's struggles. Paranormal aspects of this story didn't heighten Ruby's situation in any way. I didn't think Ruby was a particularly believable character either. She seemed a lot younger than she actually was. Perhaps this could be a stunted maturity because of the difficult situation she was in, but I didn't really believe it. And I thought a lot of the child characters as well seemed a lot younger than they actually were. There was also a lot of absenteeism of adults in this book that seemed more convenient than believable. What I will say about this book is that I think Kate Hamer switched between timelines really, really well. And some of her prose and description was absolutely stunning. Like, it was so well constructed. But in terms of plot, the really lyrical writing did make the plot really confusing. I'm all for beautiful writing as long as it doesn't weaken another aspect of the novel. So yeah, I don't know if I have mixed feelings on this one. I think I just was disappointed. And the final novel I'm going to talk about today was a YA book that has received a lot of praise, and that is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli, and I can definitely confirm that it deserves all of the praise that it got. And this one is published by Penguin. This is about a 17-year-old girl named Molly who is constantly getting crushes on people, but never thinks that those crushes are reciprocated. We also follow Molly's sister Cassie, who has a new girlfriend, and this is the first time she's ever been quite lovesick. Cassie's new girlfriend brings this like hipster boy into Molly's life, and he is definitely crush material. But at the same time we have Molly's co-worker Reed, and it seems Molly's getting a bit of a crush on him as well. I thought this was a brilliant YA book. It was such a joy to spend time with these characters. They were believable, their relationships were believable, the chemistry between romantic pairings was very believable. Characters and relationships are complex, multifaceted. It was just really, really good. The relationship between the sisters was something that I really appreciated seeing depicted in literature. I think it's really important to highlight the bonds that sisters have, but also how those bonds can become really complex. I want to point out that this is not an LGBT story. The protagonist is straight, but it's an incredibly LGBT friendly book. Obviously Cassie is in a relationship with a girl, and the girl's parents are two mothers. There is gay, lesbian and bisexual representation in this book, and it's just really, really good. I would highly recommend this one. I'm loving YA at the minute, which I'm really surprised by. I think it's because I've become more selective about the YA that I'm picking up, so I'm only picking up the YA that is really, really good. So anyways, they are all of the books that I read in July. I think this has probably been my most successful reading month. I've had a couple of really successful reading months actually, so I'm feeling super positive about my reading going into August. I'm halfway through 2 books at the minute. I started these before the booktubeathon, but I had to put them to one side to focus on the books I was reading for that. I will talk about these ones in my August wrap-up, but I'm halfway through Victorians Undone by Catherine Hughes and Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any of the books that I've spoken about today. Be sure to leave a comment down below, and I will talk to you guys in my next video.